හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Tuesday, the 2nd of January 2024. Oil boil. Cabinet not granted for the first phase of development for oil tanks in Trincomalee in a bid to enhance stores. Port City influx. 2 new local investors bringing in more than $100 million initial investments granted exemptions. Tax smacks. Only income eligibility to determine tax payout, not TIN registration, says government. COVID Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka testing for new COVID variant from India, according to Sri Lanka's health minister.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
නියම මෝල්ට් සාරය සමග මැලිබන් මෝල්ට් දැන් රුපියල් 750ක් පමණයි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a very happy new year to you. A warm welcome to today's edition of AdaDerana's English News, First at 9. This is Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at our stories for the evening, starting with our top story right now. With the discussion for the free trade agreement with Thailand concluding last month, Sri Lanka now sets its focus on finalising it over the coming months during the scheduled visit of Thai delegations. Cabinet spokesman Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri, the free trade agreement that is projected to expand the economy and exports of both countries is expected to be signed during the visit of the Foreign Minister of Thailand in the near future. With that, let's look at other cabinet decisions taken today.
තායිලන්තයේ සමග දීර්ඝ වශයෙන් සාකච්ඡාවට 9ක් පවත්වලා 9 වෙනි සාකච්ඡා වටය දෙසැම්බර් මාසයේ 20 වෙනි දින අවසන් කරලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ අවසන් කරපු සාකච්ඡා අනුව කලින් අවුරුදු 18කින් කරන්නට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙච්ච දේවල් ලිහිල්කරණයක් අවුරුදු 16ක් තුලදී කරලා නිම කරන්නට හැකි ආකාරයට තායිලන්තයේ සමග තීරුබදු බොහොමයක් නිදහස් කරලා ලිහිල් කරලා අපේ භාණ්ඩවලට තායිලන්ත වෙළඳපොළ තුල වැඩි ඉඩ ප්‍රස්තාවක් ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා වන කිවිසුම අත්සන් කිරීම සඳහා කැබිනට් අනුමැතිය ලබා දුන්නා. විදේශ කටයුතු අමාත්‍යතුමා අලිසබ්‍රි අමාත්‍යතුමා දැනුම් දුන්නා. තායිලන්ත විදේශ අමාත්‍යතුමා පැමිණෙන අවස්ථාවේදී අත්සන් කරන්න
Meanwhile, in another development, Cabinet has approved a proposal by President Ranil Wickremesinghe to implement a program to modernize the agriculture sector in the country. Accordingly, a national policy framework will be formed with inputs from experts in the field to utilize contribution from the agriculture sector to the nation by 2048. Further, a Secretariat for Modernization of Agriculture Sector will be established under the Office of the President, along with an Agricultural Sector Modernization Services and Awareness Center at the Divisional Secretariat Division level. Additionally, Cabinet has decided to make relevant amendments, including the Agricultural Development Act, to implement the proposed program. In another decision, Cabinet has given approval to sign a Memorandum of Understanding between the National Nuclear Security Administration of the United States and the Sri Lankan Navy regarding the prevention of illegal transportation of nuclear and other radioactive materials. The decision has been taken after receiving the approval of the Sri Lanka Atomic Energy Regulatory Council, the Sri Lanka Atomic Energy Board, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Department of National Planning and the Attorney General's clearance. Meanwhile, with the intention of enhancing the diplomatic relations between New Zealand and Sri Lanka, a cabinet decision was taken to establish a Sri Lanka High Commissioner's office in Wellington, New Zealand, for which the Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal furnished by the Minister of Foreign Affairs to act accordingly. In other news, the implementation of Electronic Transaction Orders, aka the E-Grama Niladhari Information Systems No. 1 of 2022 was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers yesterday. This allows the use of electronic documents and reports when obtaining services from district secretariats, divisional secretariats and Grama Niladhari offices. In another decision, the Cabinet has approved a proposal by the Minister of Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation to introduce a new act named Reforestation and Forest Cover Act, including provisions applicable to forest plantation, restoring eroded forests and increasing the forest cover of the government and private lands away from forests. Sri Lanka has agreed to increase its forest cover up to 32% from the total land area and increase the quantity of carbon absorbed by the forest 7% from the existing quantity by 2030, adhering to the Framework Convention on United Nations Climatic Changes. Further, a National Forestation Fund to obtain assistance from the private sector, non-government organizations and international organizations for the country's program will be implemented. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka also plans to implement an international A2P short message services centre by Infobip, which is a United Kingdom-based private company, to regularize short message exchange in order to confront the excessive use of short message systems that has led to fraud, spam and illegal activity. A2P, which is a communication model and is an app similar to a computer program or a software that directs messages or notifications to end subscribers, is commonly used for various objectives including evaluation on enterprises and transactions as a decisive communication media for citizens, businesses and government institutions. During the meeting yesterday, Cabinet also agreed to appoint a technical committee composed of representatives from the Ministry of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies, the Ministry of Technology and the Sri Lanka Telecommunication Regulatory Commission to evaluate the said proposal and table recommendations thereby. During the Cabinet briefing today, Cabinet spokesman Minister Bandula Gunawardena also commented on the increased value-added tax in the country.
අයවැය සකස් කිරීමේදී කවුරු ආණ්ඩු කළා මේ තියෙන කොන්දේසි අනුව තමයි ඉස්සරහා කාලය තුලදී ආණ්ඩුව කරන්න වෙන්නේ. එතකොට අපි අයවැය ලේඛනය සකස් කරන විට ප්‍රාථමික ගිණුමේ ශේෂයක් ඇති කරගන්නම ඕනේ. වැටුප් වේතන විශ්‍රාම වැටුප් සමෘද්ධි සානාධාර එහෙම ගෙව්වට පස්සේ අතිරික්තයක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැති වුණොත් අනාගතයේදී අර සකස් කරගන්න ණය ගෙවන්න බෑ. ඒකට තමයි වැට් වල ගැලපුම කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ලේකම්තුමා ඊයේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට පොරොන්දු වුණා. මේන ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදලේ කණ්ඩායම සමග සාකච්ඡා කරලා වෙනත් බදු කායේ හරි යෝජනා තියෙනවා නම් ආදායම වැඩි කරලා පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට තව සාහනයක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් වැට් වලින් කියලා එතුමා කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට සඳහන් කළා. ඒක නිසා අපි ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා බදු නොගෙවන සියලු දෙනා බදු දැලට අසු කරලා දුන්නොත් සාමාන්‍ය ජනතාව මත පැටවෙන බදු බර අඩු කරන්න පුළුවන්.
Commenting on the economic growth rate of the country, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe said that the country is expecting a 3% economic growth in 2024 in a move to elevate the quality of life of the general public. Speaking further in this regard, the CBSL governor asserted that the tax burden can be minimized in the future if everyone cooperates in paying their taxes at present. Meanwhile, joining a special discussion, the Secretary to the Finance Ministry, Mahinda Sirivardhana, added that positive outcomes will be possible this year through the rather difficult and painful decisions formally taken by the government, previously reaping their due rewards subsequently.
දෙකේ පළවෙනි කාර්තුවේ ඉඳලා කාර්තු 6ක් එක දිගට අර ඍණ ආර්ථික වර්ධනය තිබිච්ච එක 2023 තුන්වෙනි කාර්තුවේ ධන ආර්ථික වර්ධනයකට පරිවර්තනය වුණා. කත්ත වේදනාකාරී සහ අමාරු ප්‍රතිපත්ති වුණාට ඒක දැන් ප්‍රතිඵලය අපිට පැහැදිලිව ලැබෙගෙන තියෙනවා. ඒ අනුව අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ 2024 වර්ෂයත් මුල් වර්ෂය ගත්තාම අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා 103ක වගේ ආර්ථික වර්ධනයක් ඇති කරන්න පුළුවන් එක. ඒකෙන් තමයි රට ජනතාවගේ ජීවන තත්ත්වය ඉහළ යන්නේ.
හැබැයි ඒ අපි දාපු අඩිතාලම අපි දකිනවා ශක්තිමත් වෙයි කියලා ඉස්සරහට පඩි අරගෙන මගේ පුතා මට කියපු දෙයක්. මේ බදු වැඩිවීමත් එක්ක එයා මට ඇවිල්ලා කිව්වා මේ තාත්තේ මගේ ලොකු ටැක්ස් එකක් කැපිලා තියෙනවා කියලා. එයා එහෙම මගෙන් මෙච්චර ටැක්ස් ගන්න මම මොකද කරපු වරද කියලා මම කියනවා. මම කිව්වා පුතේ ඒක මට තීරණා වගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ. හැබැයි ඒ ආර්ථික අරුද්දෙන් ගොඩ ගන්න අපි හැමෝටම යුතුයකමක් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා මේ ඔයා දක්වන දායකත්වය මේ ඔයාගේ කොටස. හැමෝම බදු ගෙවන්න ගත්තට පස්සේ හැමෝම බදු දැල්ට ආවට පස්සේ එතකොට මේ ඔයාගේ බදු බර අඩු කරගන්න පුළුවන් ඉස්සරහට.
මේ හැම බාණ්ඩයකටම මුල ඉඳන් වැට් එකක් තිබෙන්නේ දැන් 18 ගාන ගෙවන්න වෙයි කියලා ඔබතුමන්ලව බිල්ලට දීලා අයුතු ලාභ ලබන්න. ඒතකොට මේවා සම්බන්ධයෙන් නියාමන යම් වගකීමකුත් මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයට මම දන්නේ නැහැ පැවරනවද නැද්ද කියලා.
මේක සමහරට අවස්ථාවාදීව යොදාගෙන යම් කිසි මිල වැඩි කිරීම කරන්න පෙළඹෙන්න පුළුවන්. මම විශේෂ මිල්ලීමක් කරන්න කැමති. එහෙම කරනවා නම් වෙන ප්‍රජාව කරුණා කරලා ඒක හිම කරන්න එපා. මොකද ජනතාව ඉන්නේ තාම අමාරුයි.
එතකොට ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ජනතාව පැත්තෙන් කරන්න තියෙන ප්‍රධාන වගකීමක් තමයි මම දකින විදිහට ඉදිරියේදී Tamanට ගෙවන්න තියෙන බදු බර අඩු කරගන්න ඕන නම් 18% වැට් එක හරි තමන්ගේ බුද්ධිලික ආදායම් බදු 30% අඩු කරගන්න ඕන නම් හොඳම දේ තමයි Taman බදු ගෙවන ගම. Taman දන්නව නම් වෙන කෙනෙක් මේ බදු පැහැර හරිනවා කියලා. ඒ අය බදු ගෙවීමට පෙළඹවීම තොරතුරු ලබා දීම තුලින් තමයි තමන්ගේ බදු බර අඩු කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ. අනිත් එක තමයි දැන් අපි පක්කලාට කියනවා යම් කිසියක් සේවාවක් භාණ්ඩයක් ගන්න ගියා සමහර තැන්වල කියනවා වැට් එක බිලක් ඕනද වැට් නැතුව ඕනද කියලා. එතකොට මම කැමති වුණොත් කීයක් හරි අඩු කරලා වැට් නැතුව ගන්න කියලා මම කැමති වෙනවා කියන්නේ මගේ බදු බර කවදාවත් අඩු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මගේ බදු බර අඩු වෙන්න නම් මම දන්නවනම් මේ කෙනෙක් මෙහෙම එකක් කරනවා කියලා මෙයාට වැට් එක ගෙවලා යම් කිසි ආකාරයකට රජයට ආදායම් ගියොත් යම් කිසි අවස්ථාවකට ලේකම්තුමා කියන වගේ ඒ වැට් එක 18% 15 කරන්න පුළුවන්.
In weather news, the Met Department says that continuous heavy downpours which occurred in parts of the island as a result of the northeastern monsoon triggering floods and resulting in the inundation of several areas, destroying crops and hampering traffic along several roads, is expected to reduce in parts of the country within the coming days. Following extreme rainfall, the Somavati sacred area remains submerged, inconveniencing devotees as well as the residents of the area. Meanwhile, red alerts issued to parts of Kandy district by the National Building Research Organisation continue to be in effect today. With the arrival of the northeastern monsoon, torrential rains have pounded parts of the country, disrupting the livelihoods of the general public. According to the latest data issued by the Disaster Management Centre, 4 districts including Badulla, Monoragala, Ratnapura and Kegol were among the most affected districts as a result of the inclement weather. The situation reports of the DMC further state that over 19,000 individuals belonging to 5,687 families in the highly affected 4 districts continue to remain affected as a result. As such, the highest rainfall of 196.7 mm during the past 24 hours was reported from the Batuangala area in Gaul. Amidst the heavy downpour recorded from the Polonnaruwa district, the Polonnaruwa-Batiklo main road, which was submerged due to the spillover of the Mahaveli River, continued to remain blocked for light vehicular transportation. The continuous inundation of the Somavati sacred area led to the monks living in the shrine to perform religious rituals with the help of canoes and boats. In the meantime, 4,000 acres of paddy fields in Sungavela, Tambala and Puttur were destroyed due to the overflowing of the Mahaveli River. In addition, the sluice gates of several reservoirs continue to remain open. Issuing an advisory for heavy rains, the Met Department stated that rains can be expected in the Uva, central and southern provinces and in the Batiklo, Ampara and Ratnapura districts over the next few hours. The advisory further added that heavy rainfall above 100 mm can be expected at certain places in these areas. Meanwhile, in its forecast for tomorrow, the Met Department said that heavy rains are expected to reduce in parts of the country tomorrow. In other related news, the traffic in the Obadala area in Bandaravala were completely disrupted owing to the risk of sinking. Further, traffic on the Badulla Mahayangane road and the Badulla Patsara road remained hampered as parts of the road encountered landslides. As a result, the National Building Research Organisation issued Level 3 red alerts to parts of the Kandy district. Additionally, amber landslide warnings were also issued to parts of the Badulla and Monoragala districts, while the Gaul, Matra and Nuwareli districts were issued Level 1 yellow landslide warnings. The government said that a suitable investor will be selected through a procurement process to renovate 9 productive tanks of the 61 oil tanks of the upper tank area of China Harbour in Trincomalee. The fuel tanks in the upper tank area of China Harbour of Trincomalee are fortified with 99 fuel container tanks. Earlier in January of 2022, Cabinet approval was granted to lease 61 tanks to Trincomalee Terminal Private Limited for a period of 50 years. The initial steps, including the performance of a feasibility study to develop 61 oil tanks, has begun. Under the first phase of the development project, it was planned that 9 productive tanks were to be renovated to lay a line for approximately 1.75 kilometers and construct other supporting facilities. In other news, the government today clarified that registering with the Income Revenue Department does not make everyone automatically liable to pay tax, but rather is a mandatory expectation of citizens above the age of 18 in the country, the goal of which is to broaden the tax net of the country. State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinga, speaking to media, however, highlighted that all individuals should take the responsibility of disclosing revenue in order to contribute to the country's revival.
තමන් ලියාපදිංචි වීම අනිවාර්යෙන්ම බදු ගෙවන්නෙකු බවට පත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. තමා ලියාපදිංචි වීම අනිවාර්ය වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම තමන්ගේ වාර්ෂික ආදායම ලක්ෂ 12 ඉක්මවනවා නම් ඔහු ඒ ආයතනය බදු ගෙවීම සඳහා හඳුනාගත් ආයතනයක් බවට පත් වෙනවා. එක්තරා කාණ්ඩයක් විසින් වැරදි මතයක් ප්‍රචාරය කරනවා. ඒක ලියාපදිංචි වීමෙන් අනතුරුව ලියාපදිංචි වන සියලුම දෙනා බදු ගෙවීමට නියමිත කණ්ඩායමක් හැටියට කියලා. මේ තුලින් රජය බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ අපේ රටේ බදු ගෙවන බදු දැල පුළුල් කිරීමට අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු කිරීම. මේකේ විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි අවුරුදු 18ට වඩා වැඩි කියන නිර්ණායකය තමයි අරගෙන තියෙන්නේ. අපි කිසිම කාණ්ඩයක් මේ හරහා ඉවත් කිරීමක් හෝ විශේෂයෙන් අතුලත් කිරීමක් සිදු කළා නැහැ. ඒ හින්දා අවුරුදු 18ට වඩා වැඩි පුරවැසියෙක් නම් ඔහු හෝ ඇය ලියාපදිංචි වීම අනිවාර්ය කරලා තියෙනවා. අපේ රටේ කඩාවැටීමට හේතුව වුණේ රාජ්‍ය ආදායම විශාල ලෙස විවිධ රජයන් විසින් ගත්ත ප්‍රතිපත්තිමය තීන්දුව තුළ කඩාවැටීමකට ලක් වී. අපේ රාජ්‍ය ආදායම 108ක මට්ටමකට දක්වා අඩු වුණා. ඉතින් අපි එතනින් නැවත නැගිටීම සඳහා රජය ඊටාම සත්භාවයෙන් ගන්න තීන්දුව මේ තීන්දුව. ඉතින් මේ තීන්දුව සඳහා ස්වේච්ඡාවෙන්ම සහයෝගය දක්වන්න.
Now in some rather worrying news, Minister of Health Dr. Ramesh Patirana says that Sri Lanka has not implemented any screening tests for the tourists coming into the country at the moment, given the current situation of the country and the recovery of the tourism sector. Speaking to the media today, Minister Patirana further stated that officials have observed a reluctance from parents in vaccinating their children, which can be a reason for the diseases such as measles to reappear in the country.
Have you advised the authorities to screen Indians coming as tourists?
No, we don't screen the tourists as such because it's not recorded in Sri Lanka as yet, because we don't want to institute unwanted, unnecessary, restrictive measures as such at this particular moment, because India is one of the countries where from where we get highest number of tourists as at now. We don't encourage that sort of tests at the moment.
This disease like chickenpox and malaria, we have done away with in the past, but why it's reappearing again?
We have not eradicated chickenpox and malaria. Still, it's we found certain cases in the country, but measles is we have eradicated from Sri Lanka. Measles, that's the one. But if you take your the immunizations properly, that is MMR vaccination, mumps, measles, and rubella. So it's generally it doesn't occur. But what happens was during last couple of years time, I think it's partly because of COVID pandemic and also partly because of the fact that some parents were a little reluctant to get these vaccinations during COVID time. Also, some of the people were reluctant to get COVID vaccination. There are people like that who have kind of a fear factor regarding immunization. So that's why we have come across such cases. That's why we earnestly appeal people from this country, especially the parents, don't worry about the vaccinations. They are very safe. So go ahead and give vaccination, vaccinate your children. That's the appeal of ours. If you are not already taken, you can go for the vaccination. And even if the child had been vaccinated, there are no harm of taking a booster dose. That's the request from the Ministry of Health.
As the special police operation Yuka continued today for the 16th day, 150,000 rupees in cash suspected to have been earned through drug trafficking and 2,250 milligrams of heroin was seized in Ingiriya. The raid executed in the area led to the arrest of a drug trafficker in the Urugala area, along with 2,180 milligrams of heroin in possession. Meanwhile, police arrested a married couple today during the largest ever drug raid conducted in the Polonnaruwa area. The police special operation Yuka carried out in the Nambapana area in Ingiriya under the directives of the acting IGP Deshabandhu Tennakun led to the seizure of 2,250 milligrams of heroin in the possession of a woman travelling with her 11-year-old daughter. The operation further led to the recovery of 8 mobile phones and 150,000 rupees in cash, which is suspected to have been earned through drug trafficking. In addition, a drug trafficker along with 2,180 milligrams of heroin was arrested in the Urugala area following the interrogation of the arrested woman. Accordingly, the 2 suspects are expected to be produced before the Horana Magistrates Courts. Meanwhile, a married couple was arrested by the police in the Kadaruwela area in Polonnaruwa during the largest drug bust conducted in the Polonnaruwa area this afternoon. Per police information, 1.9 million rupees suspected to have been earned from drug trafficking and 25 milligrams of heroin were recovered by the police. The arrested couple is expected to be produced before the Polonnaruwa Magistrates Court. Additionally, the Sri Lanka police today introduced a hotline for the public to provide information in relation to the ongoing massive anti-drug operation Yuka, which is being carried out across the island. The hotline was introduced under the directive of the Acting Inspector General of Police, Deshabandhu Tennakun, while stickers displaying the relevant hotline number were also pasted on the back of 3-wheelers today. Accordingly, the public has been urged to contact the police headquarters via the phone number 071 859 8800 if they have any information about drug-related offenders or underworld activity. So far, a total of 822 suspects have been arrested over drug-related crimes during the 16-day-long Yuka special operation, while another 60 suspects are being subjected to investigations on detention orders. Arrestees during the course of today's Yuka operation included 91 criminals listed by the Police Narcotics Bureau and the Police Special Task Force. Welcome back. The Cabinet of Ministers has approved a proposal presented by the President to grant exemptions to a leading healthcare provider to implement a project to develop a hospital in the port city of Colombo under an investment of $100 million. Concurrently, Cabinet also approved a project to implement an information technology business in the port city of Colombo with an initial foreign direct investment of $100,000. During the cabinet meeting held yesterday, approval was granted to a proposal by the President in his capacity as the Minister of Investment Promotions to grant relevant exemptions or incentives to a proposal submitted by the R-City Port City Hospital Company to implement a project to develop a hospital in the port city of Colombo under an investment of $100 million. The project will be announced as a primary business of strategic importance through a gazette order.
ඉන් අදහස් කරන්නේ ප්‍රධානම විදේශ ආයෝජන කැදවා ගැනීමේ ආකර්ශනීයම ස්ථානයේ වශයෙන් කොළඹ පෝර්ට් සිටි ව්‍යාපෘතිය තුල අංග සම්පූර්ණ ජාත්‍යන්තර රෝහලක් ඉදිකිරීම සඳහා ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් මිලියන 100ක ආයෝජනයක් යෝජනා ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ ආයෝජනය තුල විදේශීය සංචාරකයන්ට හා වෙනත් රටවල රෝගීන්ට ප්‍රතිකාර ලබා ගැනීම සඳහා ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට පැමිණෙන්න හැකි ආකාරයේ විශාල රෝහලක් ඉදි වෙනවා. ඒ රෝහලට අවශ්‍ය දිරිගැන්වීම හා නිදහස් කිරීම සඳහා කැබිනට් අනුමැතිය ලැබුණා.
Further, Cabinet has given the green light to a proposal submitted by TIQRI Software Pte. To implement an information technology business in the port city of Colombo with an initial foreign direct investment of $100,000. The project will be announced as a secondary business of strategic importance through a gazette order. Both projects qualify for exemptions or incentives under 2B of Colombo Port City Regulations number 2 of 2023 and will be announced as a primary business of strategic importance through a gazette order. The Colombo Stock Exchange reopened trading for the new year today on a positive note and closed higher, aided by gains in consumer staple stocks. The benchmark's all-share index settled 0.28% up at 10,684.28 points, while the S&P SL20 index gained 0.52% to end at 3,084.36 points. Ceylon Tobacco Company and Melster Corp were the top gainers on the ASPI, rising 4% and 2% respectively. Trading volume on the index fell to 15 million shares from 29.2 million shares in the previous session. Turnover fell to 335.6 million rupees from 642.4 million rupees in the previous session. The banking sector was the top contributor to market turnover, while the food, beverage and tobacco sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net sellers offloading stocks worth 17 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers purchasing shares worth 329.2 million rupees. With that, let's take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies as the day progressed. Welcome back. Sri Lanka's diversified conglomerate DEMO was once again recognized by the South Asian Federation of Accountants for corporate reporting excellence. With that, let's take a look at our corporate news segment for the evening.
As its first action for 2024, Commercial Bank of Ceylon plc entered into a fresh collective agreement and a memorandum of understanding with the Ceylon Bank Employees Union. Accordingly, the collective agreement covers and binds the Commercial Bank of Ceylon, the CBEU and members of the union employed on permanent contracts in the executive assistance grade and allied grades and non-executive grades. As such, the MOU signed between the two parties covering and binding the employees in the grades of executive officers will be effective till the 31st of December 2026. Making another significant milestone in its path towards developing vocational training for the healthcare industry in Sri Lanka, Navaloka Hospitals signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Daiki Lanka Private Limited on the 21st of December 2023. Accordingly, the signed MOU aims to fulfill the requirement for professional caregivers in Japan, as an estimate 1/3 of its population is expected to be 65 and older by year 2050. It is estimated that Japan is currently in need of 2 to 2.5 million caregivers. In addition, diversified conglomerate Demo continued to shine at a global scale, clinching the joint Gold Award in the diversified category and another Gold Award for integrated reporting at the recent South Asian Federation of Accountants Best Presented Annual Report Awards, Integrated Reporting Awards and SARC Anniversary Awards for Corporate Governance Disclosures Competition 2022, showcasing its excellence in corporate reporting. The company said the recognition underscores its dedication in setting new benchmarks in corporate reporting and contributing to a culture of transparency in the South Asian business landscape.
Now in some rather tragic news, at least 48 people were killed in a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake that struck western Japan yesterday. Tsunami warnings, which were since issued, have been lifted a day after the disaster, but over 45,000 houses remained without power. Per initial reports, 16 others were seriously injured, while buildings and roads were massively damaged following the deadly earthquake. It is reported that authorities are still looking for people buried in the rubble of collapsed and burned buildings in the coastal epicenter of the disaster. Meanwhile, more than 100 shops and houses were burnt down following a large fire which broke out due to the massive earthquake. Thousands of army personnel, firefighters and police officers have been dispatched to aid with relief efforts. In addition, the United States Geological Survey added that more than 35 aftershocks greater than a magnitude of 2.5 have struck near the epicenter of the quake and warned that aftershocks could last for months. That's all the news I have for you for today. Join us again tomorrow at the same time for your premier English breaking news. For now, this is Jonathan Benedict. Have a good night, a blessed Wednesday ahead, and a very happy New Year again.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.